July 26th, quick session recap here. Taking a look at ES, definitely a slower day compared to the prior two highly volatile sessions. We came into the day wanting to see how price was going to be trading versus that 54.90. That was one of the key areas that I talked about during yesterday's session recap, as well as in the write-up shared in the Traders Think Tank. And what I'd kind of mentioned was that we either wanted to see price trade back down into that prior day low or potentially a move up into the prior day high, kind of treating this like a mid-range pivot. And the expectation was that most likely it would be an inside day today, simply because from this 54.90 up into that prior day high or that prior day low, you have almost a 1 ATR move. So anytime we start to see those big volatility expansion moves, highly volatile sessions, we want to start thinking about potential compression, meaning slower session, right? And we still had a very, very volatile day today, but comparatively less so. And that materializes with a simple inside day. If we take a look at the daily time frame chart here, you'll see the entirety of today's bar is within the prior day's bar. So now what we have is a near-term range, right? Taking a look at the 15-minute chart here, we have a pretty straightforward near-term range to be working with into Monday. And so what I'll really be focusing on come Monday on ES, same level we talked about this morning, 54.90 right through here. We have essentially a 2.5 session volume point of control right through here, right through this 54.80 area. So we know there's a high volume node here, loosely aligned with that 54.90. We could see how well the action traded versus that downside 54.75 today as well. Let me jump into the intraday chart here. So take a look at this. Look how well VWAP holds, as well as that 54.75 all morning. These are some of my favorite types of setups where you have VWAP aligned with some type of level of interest. Really phenomenal opportunity through there. A couple of 2-hour trader framework setups as well. If you're not familiar with that one, definitely check it out. Price then trades up into that 54.90, right? We see just basically consolidation for the most of the morning. And when these ranges are much tighter, this will be more challenging, kind of unfavorable action. But when it comes to ES, if we have a range that is, 25 points, 30 points, that's tradable. That is tradable. And these types of sessions offer very, very good opportunity. So a range day with a volatile market is a good combination. That is one of my personal favorites, and I had mentioned that in the think tank this morning, simply because you can just work with the level, trade the edges of the intraday range, and really clean up nicely and have a great day. Ultimately, price ends up breaking out, right? See that move up through that session high, a little bit of consolidation right here, breaks higher, resolves higher, trades up into that 55.30 upside level of interest, that prior day high, and we could see sellers stepped in pretty aggressively there just to settle back down near this 54.90. So the significance of 54.90 continues to show itself. That'll be the primary watch here, just looking at this near-term structure heading into Monday. So near-term range, 54.35 by 55.30, the primary watch being 54.90 for Monday's session. As far as kind of a bigger picture structure overview, it's one of the key points we've been talking about. The fact that price is in that downtrend right now. That has not changed, right? I had mentioned we want to see buyers show acceptance up through here, and price just rolls over. So not all that surprising. A good scenario to be thinking about would be continued range trading through here before that reversal actually materializes. And it certainly could materialize with a leg lower. But based on the fact that price is sitting on some pretty large areas of support right now, we do have a decent chance at, a change in character and potentially a bounce here, depending on how this structure continues to build. As of right now, objectively speaking, it is still in that downtrend, right? We do not break this series of lower highs until price trades up and through this 55.30 with acceptance, meaning not just a move up above, kind of a look above, like an up thrust and then knocked back down, but actually trades up through there and then higher. So that's kind of that near term, intermediate term structure. And then another look at the daily here as well. You can see where price currently sits right near prior area of resistance. We know that's big time frame support. So we'll continue to watch to see if buyers continue to treat this as a local low or not. Now, one notable thing that I just noticed here, and I'll talk about this in the weekly kickoff a bit more, but all the volume from this week is still way up here at 56.10. So if this is going to be another leg lower, then what sellers will want to do is kind of redistribute through here before pushing lower. So most likely early in the week, we'll see that structure kind of build out through here, and then we could watch to see which direction that breaks in for the highest probability setups. All right, so let's jump over to NQ. Now, NQ, another inside day, very similar to ES from a structure standpoint, prior resistance up through here, now holding as support. Near-term structure, downtrend, just like ES, right? Let's take a look. Got the breakdown that was triggered back on the 11th. And it has not looked back since. So that remains the concern if you're a buyer. Still in that downtrend. So those are some things we want to be keeping an eye on. Now, as far as the near-term action, one of the primary watches was that 250 area for today. Wanted to see if buyers could show acceptance above that zone. They could not. Right? So we just have some decent action versus that 19,100 level of interest. Now, at the time that this structure was building out, we had the session volume point of control right through here. And that actually made for some very good intraday opportunities, right? You got a little bit of a spring setup right there, another spring setup right there. We could see how high those setups resolved right through here as well. So when that session volume point of control is there and price is kind of showing you a favorable structure, that can really help to add some conviction to the setup. I think Mish was in one of these plays and posted a trade recap in the trade review section, so check that out if you haven't yet. But a really nice setup, really nice action through there. Then you get a higher low that starts to build out, right? This is notable. Pay attention to details like this. When you start to see the range trade like this, and then price after testing the high of the range is no longer testing the low. What is that telling you? Especially at a level of interest, what is that telling you? With VWAP right there, it's pretty significant. Sellers could not get it down into the low of the range. Okay, maybe this is a good opportunity to position for potential break of the highs. Structure never lies, price never lies. Just got to focus on those details, and you'll start to see some really good clues. So anyway, you get price pushing higher up into this 250 upside level of interest. Not quite a move into that prior day high, but very similar to ES, just that near term range building out. And more notable here is the fact that it is actually getting much tighter. So ES continues to trade the full width of that prior day's range, whereas NQ is getting tighter, right? That's that volatility compression that we talked about this morning. Not seeing those big expansion moves, gets tighter and tighter. Likely see it continue to compress even more. and we'll see which way this structure starts to resolve. But my expectations are that we'll kind of see early in the week price continue to trade through this range, and then potentially later in the week. I believe we have FOMC next week. So potentially with FOMC, see this thing make the next leg or potentially start to reverse. That's kind of what I'm looking at, kind of the early game plan for next week. As far as levels, just going to be treating some of these levels of interest as like a mid-range reference point, 19,100 or that 19,250, depending on where price opens up Monday morning for NQ. But overall, some really good action today, in my opinion. If you guys have questions about anything, DMs will be open all weekend, so feel free to shoot me a DM in the Traders Think Tank. Otherwise, I'll see you Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Have a great afternoon.